And welcome back to RGR. It's another week, so we're going to do things a little bit differently because Matt Derrick's back with us. Thanks for taking the time, Matt.
Absolutely, Ryan. Differently. Okay, now you got me on my edge of my seat. What are we doing?
Right? We have to take a look at the bigger scope of the Chiefs season. We know, we found out on Tuesday that Mike Pennel's going to miss 2 games. Bashaud Breeland's going to miss at least 4, right? And we still have a little question mark about the arrest thing and if there's more coming. So there's a couple of specific and I think important guys on the defensive side of the ball that are going to be out when they have to play the Texans, when they have to play the Chargers, as well as those Ravens. If anything for you, where's the biggest concern for you at this point?
On the defensive side of the ball, to me, it's going to be figuring out that cornerback situation. And I think that's the situation that worries Steve Spagnuolo the most. I mean, that's certainly the impression that I got this week when we had a chance to talk to him. The depth at defensive tackle is a concern because Pennel is, unquestionably, I think, their best run defender at this point. And, Derek Notty's coming back from the ankle surgery. So there's some concern there about, what his ability to be ready for week 1. And then, the stamina, how many plays he can give you in week 1. Because after that, after Colin Saunders, your depth gets really questionable there. And that's a problem. But, you're looking at trying to find somebody who can play 100% of the snaps at corner from the very beginning of the season. And that's the challenge because right now nobody has taken that job. I think Rashad Fenton is solidly the number 2 guy behind Ward. Fenton, I know the Chiefs have been grooming him since he got there to be an inside guy, to be that third corner that can play the slot. And I don't get the sense that they want him to have to play both positions, playing outside and kicking back in. Kendall Fuller did it, but, Fuller had a little bit more experience when he was doing that too. So I don't get the sense that that's what they want to do, which means that you're going to have a L'Jarius Sneed. You're going to have an Antonio Hamilton or someone else step up. If not, then you're going to have to get really creative with how you use your safeties. And that's what Steve Spagnuolo doesn't know yet. I mean, and I think you even sensed it in his answers the other day that concerns him because I think that is the most glaring question. They've got some questions at other spots, but they're much more positive. I mean, the question at linebacker is, how good is Willie Gay going to be? Because if Willie Gay is even better than you think he is, then that's a good problem to have. But at corner, they don't know what they have at all. And that's because that could be a position that teams really pick on that first month of the season.
Well, and I'm glad that you bring up Willie Gay because when I look at the scenario for this defense, if they don't have a guy that can play 100% of the snaps in replacement of Bashaud Breeland, you got to have 2 or 3 guys, right? So that keeps numbers at the secondary positions. If you don't have Pennel, and let's cross our fingers that Notty's back, if you don't have them, then you have to keep more positions along the line. Is the linebacker position where roster numbers might get squeezed the most on the defensive side?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think that right now I would say there's probably 4 solids there at linebacker, with the Hitchens, Ben Niemann, Damian Wilson, Willie Gay. I mean, those 4 guys are making the team. There's no doubt about that. Dorian O'Daniel is probably next in line because he does have special teams value. But at this point, looking at the roster, that's probably it. You've got some other young guys. I mean, there could be some guys. So, maybe you only keep 5. Could you end up keeping 4? Maybe. I mean, I certainly can't see the Chiefs getting probably any deeper than 5 at this point. We'll see. But that means also, you're going to have 4 guys, really rotating through there and playing a lot.
Yeah, which is probably good for Willie Gay in particular because he needs as many looks as he can get in as much of a variety as he can get. Ben Niemann, I think, has been coming on the second week of padded practice. How do you feel about his progression and just how much he might see until Willie's ready?
Yeah, Niemann seems like he just keeps picking up more and more every year. At this point, he's clearly, your number 2 guy in the middle. So if Hitchens isn't out there, Niemann's going to be out there. He's the only other guy that they trust to be able to call the plays on defense, to get everybody lined up. So, and there's going to be times, I think, when you see Hitchens and Niemann out there, certainly at the same time. Could Niemann be even moving past Wilson? I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, we really don't know where this roster, is shaping up and the lineup is. But I've been hearing a lot of great things about, where Ben Niemann is and how much the Chiefs trust him. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, those two might be your top two guys. Maybe Wilson is looking more of a time-sharing situation with Neiman than he is with Gay, because they've got a couple of spots that they want to put Willie Gay, and I think that they want him to play those spots full-time, because even if he plays those two spots, he plays the Sam and the base, and then he's playing, this big nickel position maybe and the sub packages, not playing every sub package. So, right. And they're not going to spend a whole lot of time in base. So that means Willie Gay is not going to be playing 100% of the snaps. I mean, I probably would think he would end up maybe in a 30 to 70% range, which is going to be more one week and less than another week, depending on the offenses that they're facing. Whereas, Hitchens and Neiman might be more, Hitchens for sure, every down guy. Yep. Neiman might be close. I mean, he may supplant Wilson as being that close to every down guy too.
Wow. I had not seen that coming when we started camp a couple of weeks ago. And I think a little bit of a telltale there is that what Steve Spagnuolo said last week about if teams come in and want to go two tight end, two running back, that they could see some scenarios where they have to play more base. I think it is important to have a Will type. And I think clearly we all understand that Willie should probably be playing the Will, even though he's in the Sam and the base. Did you see that juxtaposition as a problem?
I don't think it's a problem. And I think it comes back to the question of, when they do play the base, what do they feel like is their best lineup? Is it bringing a safety in to play in that, that one of those linebacker positions, which they've kind of done before, where maybe bringing a Dan Sorensen to cover there. Maybe it's a Tyrann Mathieu who's, covering a tight end. They've got some safeties who can cover. And remember last year, with Kendall Fuller essentially playing a safety, they played three safety a lot in the last half of the season. And they have been bringing in more and more safeties. I mean, you've added Tedrick Thompson to the mix. You've added Adrian Colbert. You've already got Mathieu, Thornhill, Sorensen. Armani Watts is still there. You've got a lot of numbers. The fact that they've got so many safeties tells me that Steve Spagnuolo is certainly considering the idea that he's going to be playing a lot of safeties out there at a time. And if that means that one of your safeties is playing coverage, or one of your safeties is playing linebacker, I mean, that's going to take snaps from somebody.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. I mean, and they got to do what they got to do to get through this first quarter of the season, no matter what. And I'm feeling optimistic about them playing more of a full season than I thought a few weeks ago. But I think the overarching thing, when you look at the Chiefs as an organization, as a team, in order to adapt to what you have to do on defense, the offense has to put up the points. I don't think that's a problem. I think the question that comes to me now is, what's the hierarchy? How do you distribute the ball enough to get maybe the most prevalently talked about rookie running back in the history of Andy Reid's regimes? How do you get him the ball against everybody else that you got to get the ball to?
Yeah, well, I guess to a degree, you go back to 2017 and look at what Alex Smith and Kareem Hunt were doing. I mean, that's and remember they didn't have a lot of trouble even in the early part of 2018 with distributing the ball with Kareem Hunt in there. I think it's there. Now the question is probably going to be, how do you run the Chiefs 2019 style of offense and the level of ball control with adding another weapon? Because you know what? The Chiefs weren't as explosive last year as they were in 2018 because they didn't have to be. So, there were a lot more balls going around in 2018 than there were in 2019 because they were having to run up and down the field a few times. Not having to do that. Yeah. How do you carve out, what is the high end for what, Clyde Edwards-Helaire could do offensively? 1,200 yards, pretty good. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the case. And if that's the case, then he's probably gobbling up everybody in the backfield yards. So you can take everything that Damian Williams did, Spencer Ware did, Shady McCoy did, roll them all into one. But then again, Sammy Watkins says he wants the ball more. And you're going to be getting the ball to Tyreek. And you're going to be getting the ball to Kelsey. I think that is definitely going to be a challenge as far as how do you distribute the ball among that many different playmakers while still keeping everybody happy. But at the same time, Edwards-Helaire is a rookie, so I don't know if he needs the ball to be happy. I think he'll be happy being out there and winning football games. But at the same time, the more times he touches the ball, more experience he gets, I think the better he's going to be, and probably the team's going to be better. So yeah, it's a challenge. It's a great problem to have. Yeah. Because every team in the league would love to have that kind of problem. Oh geez, I got 4 different guys that can take it to the house on any single play. My diamond shoes are too tight. My wallet's too small for my 50s.
Right. It's rough. I mean, hey, there are worse problems. I think just to go backward just a little bit, when you say 1,200 yards, I assume you mean combined.
Yeah, I was talking, definitely yards from scrimmage, total yards.
Just in that usage, like you're talking about, I think the most intriguing part to me is just how much you can split him out and you can use him in the pass game. Where do you think that balance comes for him? Say that 1,200 is the total. Do you think it's 6 and 6? I mean, where do you think that lies?
Yeah, I mean, if we put it at 1,200 yards, I would probably go with more of, I'd probably be closer to 800 on the ground and 400 receiving. Now, you know what? I mean, to be honest, just based on how well Kareem Hunt played in this offense, if I put the over-under at 1,200, I might take the over. And certainly when you look at what you've been hearing coming out of camp, that Chiefs love this guy, that they think they can get him the ball. Now, how much of it is simply that they want to see what they got in camp and they're trying to get him some experience, and maybe that will tone itself down once the season rolls around? But right now, I mean, everything you're hearing out of camp is that Chiefs plan on this guy being a central part of the offense. And the honest truth is that, the more you can make him a central part of the offense early in the season, that just means at some point in the year, you're going to have a lot of one-on-one situations for Tyreek Hill, for Sammy Watkins, and Travis Kelce. And if that's the case, they're going to eat teams alive.
And it comes to me very quickly that the one guy you haven't mentioned by name yet is the guy that I think is in position to reap all the benefits of all the coverage you're talking about for all those other three and Clyde. I think Mecole might be the guy that gets loose one-on-ones. Do you see it that way, or do you think that he's still got some steps to get to the point where he can really contribute at that level?
Yeah, I mean, this normally, year two is normally a year where a player like Mecole makes the big jump. And I think he is going to make a good jump this year. I think that just, the position he's going to be playing, I mean, I think that he's still going to be the number 3 receiver, and it's going to be difficult, to kind of make some plays there. And just because, he's still going to have limited opportunities. But that said, yeah, I mean, he should also fit into a category that when he's on the field, he's going to see a lot of one-on-one situations. What he's going to be able to do is what he didn't really seem to have the ability to do last year, which is to work underneath, to beat players there. He's got the speed that he can beat anybody over the top. That's not a problem. But if he's going to become an 800-yard receiver in year two, it's going to be because he's thriving underneath. He's catching balls over the middle. He's taking, short balls and making guys miss and making big plays. But to do that, you got to get open. You got to be able to create separation. You got to be able to be crisp. You got to know the playbook. You've got to be able to run every route, every slot, you name it. And is he there yet? I mean, certainly I think there's a lot of thought that he can be, but I could also see that, maybe it's going to be year 3 that's the breakthrough for Mecole Hardman, because in year 3, he should be the number 2 guy. At that point, he would know all the routes and have him down cold. I mean, to me, I'm bullish on Mecole Hardman this year, but I'm really bullish on Mecole Hardman in 2021 because I think that's when he's going to become a Pro Bowler.
Wow, that's hefty. I'm looking for him to make some serious noise here, and particularly over the middle, those skinny posts and those intermediate over routes where he can just cross somebody's face. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm kind of going to bank on that in fantasy, I think, but I don't know. Well, we're going to see where it is next week. That's it for us this week, folks. Matt, thanks for all of your time on both the podcast and the show. I appreciate it.
Always, Ryan. It's great hanging out with you.
Well, we'll hang out in person at some point, I promise. And folks, hope you're ready. You have a good weekend and enjoy your hangouts. We'll be back more. There's more Chiefs every 5 seconds, so we will return. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.